No.
You are being a bit negative.
Yes, I agree.
You are sure?
I can't know.
Have you tried?
Where am I?
Would you want to be no thing considered?
I think you have gestured before my time.
Why do you say your time?
Because they are not the same.
God damn, there's a Pac-Man worm in here! Get it out of here! Damn nation! A goddamn Pac-Man worm! It looks like a corn nut! Stop it! Get those worms out of here! They're crawling all over the cassette tape deck now, damn it! Goddamn Pac-Man worms! Stop it! I'll be jiggered. I'm just about ready to throw up. Good God, there's one on my coffee. Nation, get the 409. Get it quick. That's it. All right. There we go. It's squashing it. My God, they're coming again. God damn, more Pac-Man worms. Get them out of here. Get the 409. Get me the 409 right now. Come on. They're getting all over my jamming tape. Good God. They look like goddamn corn nuts. God damn Pac-Man worms. Oh, stop it! Stop! Just stop it now, Ralph! God, I'm going insane here. That's right. I haven't done a damn thing since they stop it. I don't know what I'm doing. Hey, watch it! You're wrecking the motor. Stop it, P-Town. Stop it. Stop. Oh.
I killed about 5 Pac-Man worms tonight. In fact, one of them tried to parachute in from the ceiling and get me.
Look, if you don't like Pac-Man, you kill the birds, then you just keep it. That's what the birds.
I can't even hear you anymore. It's getting too much.
Okay, well, if you
Well,
kill the pack,
we've got to systematically reduce all these auditory inputs which we're now receiving.
what's that from?
Do you have a Pac-Man worm?
Morning, it's been too much.
Rationality and logic
Glad we
tend to
eliminated the
depend on the
music.
presentation of
That voice.
connected
Stop
and
that
sequential
that
acts or
voice
concepts.
right now.
For many people,
I want
rationality
to hear that, man.
I have a male guana pig. Weighs 245 pounds. She walks on 9 feet.
Shut up. I'm getting very upset. I want to be the one
You,
single...
the fat one. The big, huge monster who thinks they're goddess of all queens.
I'm really...
That's right.
I don't
Blow
follow.
up your telephone.
It means I don't think what you're saying is rational.
1,000?
I'll bet your telephone smells like rotten 7-Up.
Handful of urine.
All right, that's
How's
enough of
that,
that.
Grandpa?
Still don't follow you.
Well, it's like you're beginning to question the assumption that art is the main, if not single, human phenomenon that remains constant within an ever-shifting, challenging milieu.
This guy's making a complete jerk out of himself. This is K6MHR. He's a complete wise guy, a smart aleck, and a jerk.
As for City Hall, the public will only be allowed to use the Perdido Street entrance. Only 25 visitors will be allowed per floor of the City Hall at any one time, and temperature screening will be conducted for both employees and visitors inside City Hall by EMS personnel. Well, the Orleans Parish Criminal District Court, they're closing to help with efforts against COVID-19. Officials say it will be closed from tomorrow until April 13th. Anyone with pending cases set during these dates should report to court between April 13th and 17th to get a new court date. Jurors serving in the month of March, they've all been dismissed, and jurors who will serve in April will get new notices.
The number one way to limit the spread of a virus is to take personal responsibility.
Poem from Death Row. Fellow people, all you who live after us, we ask you not to be too hard on us, because the more you understand what we did, the more you can hope that your own idiocies will be understood. As you can see, they've got 5 or 6 of us up against the wall, our bodies, which we have taken care to nourish all along. They will cut up for eating and then put out to rot until our bones become brittle as cinders and the meat on them infested with disease. Yet let no one mock our hard misfortune, but pray to God to acquit us all. And if we call on you, brothers, to understand, you should not scorn our appeal just because the law finds us guilty. Not everyone is able to escape being run in. So it is us in particular who you must understand and absolve before God and his mercy, and not let the powers of infernal evil silence us forever. And when we are dead, do not let them insult our spirits, but pray to God to acquit us all. The downpour has washed us clean, but the brutal heat has wrecked and weakened us. The shrikes and crows have cut out our eyes. They come daily to rip our hair and pull our eyebrows out by hand. At no time are we free from this kind of torture. They won't let us sit or lie down, but first here, then there, under their blows, and for their pleasure, without ceasing, we are tortured. Small as seeds, attacked by vicious birds. So do not soil our memory, brothers and sisters, but pray to God that he acquit us all. And may the Lord, who is the master of all things, guard us against damnation finally, and prove once and for all we have nothing to do with evil, but here, at the point of annihilation, all our brothers and sisters, we ask Lord God to acquit us all.
Say their prayers and nothing more.
Beginning shortly, you will be given the opportunity to take part in a historical event, the compilation of moribund music of the 70s, first official Top 10. Starting in less than 10 minutes and throughout the early morning, you'll be hearing portions of specially selected back burner hits of the 70s. You'll then be granted the privilege of calling in to vote for your favorites. Then at 5 a.m., we will count them down, in order, from number 10 to number 1. Stay by your phone. The chance to perch your favorite moribund hit in a prominent position is coming in minutes from your first ever 70s nostalgia event, Moribund Music.
Employees of Solburn Computer Systems Limited and Morestat Market Research Incorporated, as well as their friends and family members, need not participate.
I'm going to read now from a kind of poem that I've written maybe about a couple years ago. And full disclosure, just to give you some headway with this piece, I do say something that's a little mildly, I mean, somewhat disturbing, I suppose. I mean, it's just something that my aunt used to say, and so it probably sounds kind of antiquated in a very basic way, but I think there's truth to it. At the Rue, I talked about paranoia, but I had a very basic concern in my mind, my reputation. It was the first time I treated you as a peer instead of an old teacher. It didn't come easy to do so merely because of simple embarrassment. I don't care to sort out what I said. You have my best interest at heart. I haven't considered myself a poet and teacher in years. If there is anything that sticks of what I said to you, I would want it to be this, that calling myself those names is an ethical position. If I'm going to say my S doesn't smell, I shouldn't throw it at the wall. If I convey I am different than other people, I have to follow the example I am claiming. Doing so wouldn't necessarily make me a bad actor, and that no one is more or less capable of right action than anyone else, but it would be a moral failing in me not to do so. I would hazard to say you probably make the same distinction. Is there in the whole world a being who would have the right to forgive and could forgive? I don't want harmony. From love for humanity, I don't want it. I would rather be left with the unavenged suffering. I would rather remain with my unavenged suffering, an unsatisfied indignation, even if I were wrong. Besides, too high a price is asked for harmony. It's beyond our means to pay so much to enter on it. And so I hasten to give back my entrance ticket, and if I am an honest man, I am bound to give it back as soon as possible. And that I am doing. It's not God that I don't accept, Alyosha. Only I must most respectfully return him the ticket. I am uncertain if I more relish the image of returning the ticket or telling him to shut up and take the money back. It isn't really the sum that concerns me. I don't really know what exactly it is that I'm fleshing out here. I have always been comfortable in knowing that I don't know. I do my best to make do with what I have. There is something my Aunt Jane used to say as a young professional. If you're going to get raped, you might as well lie back and enjoy it. 50s rock and roll is a raucous, but it also socialized teenagers. The first thing my aunt did out of high school was accompany a church group to Alabama to register. Her 1960s was a time of social disorder, but she had already been around the block by then. Everybody has monsters, but they shouldn't be treated as surrogates for experience. For me, paranoia comes as easily as shame. I shouldn't really prioritize these feelings in the sense that they are approximate to what I see. If someone asks me to clarify what I mean, I want to be able to answer them. I don't want to, quote, eat my heart because it is bitter and because it is my heart. If I pretend feelings dictate my motivations, it belies intention. If I'm going to own poet, I can't stand in front of the White House and say my generation has been silenced. A poet is never silent, and a page doesn't read itself. These feelings are rooted in alienation. I would want kids to learn from my mistakes without actually knowing what they are. I would want them to dance noisily out of the garden without being cast out. I would want them to begin with Huck Finn so they would never have to shed false pretense. You can suggest to people to think about the world safely, but nothing to the world. Besides my brother, I had one dear friend at the ashram who once said snidely of institutionalized drugs, "Unfortunately, LSD is not dispensed at your local pharmacy just yet." I once met a poet who suggested to me that form is a mask, and drug taking in his novels stands for this idea. It is an idea that merits consideration. Personally, I reserve its use only for those who attempt to dissuade us that our self-imposed mental confines are justified to keep the wild out of society. You know, the administration.
The preceding 60 seconds were presented as an important historical and cultural study. The previously stated product is not necessarily endorsed by the staff and or management of this station.
Is this okay where it is? Can you hear me? Yes. New Orleans has a way of fetching up a memorable carousel of characters, a streetcar named Desire, unburnished and unrepentant talent, or high school known as Nota, along with corruption, corrosion, crayfish, deadly storms, festive, mysterious organizations such as La Zulu Social Aid and Pleasure Club, saints, miscreants, music in every quarter, at every quarter, from every quarter, psychotropic plants, flying roaches, camelback shotgun houses, and preternatural problem children. It's actually the name of a radio program in New Orleans. Once in a while, we land one of the latter and bring the city and its tidings along with. The language of youth is tumultuous and difficult to curb. It is sleepless and tunneled. It is produced in a fever dream. There are cauchemar and live dramas. There are facts and falsehoods. The water will rise. Words will cross over. Ben Luton will be reading from his book-long poem, Lake Pontchartrain, What Have I Done? And you will be briefly empowered to make contact to channel the magnetism of the city and its denizens on a safe, personal level.
This institution has had a profound impact on me.
I don't know if I'm in a position to thank the institution itself, but I would like to thank everyone in it. And I really mean that, and in particular, I want to thank M. Beata, Ali, V, John Creamer, the photographer, I'm not sure if he's here, but Drew, Forrest, Cole, John, Kaylee, Joanna, Gail, and CD. So I'm going to read from this manuscript that CD mentioned, and one thing that one figure that the book deals with is that of Pontchartrain, the lake on which is sited in New Orleans, and it, after Hurricane Katrina inundated the city, flooded it, and so that's one figure that's running through the book. The pre-stress factory built the longest bridge in the world. The storm removed and evacuated the commuter, all night turning out from St. Tammany. Lead paint seed from the soil. Even though my mom cries, maybe I am a closet triangulated by her interview. From the bridge, the commuter tells me what the bridge looks like from above. Storm waters were 20 feet, twice the depth of Pontchartrain. In my parents' house, Katie plays a tape when she prays east toward my bedroom. Everything is provided for by someone else. Fixing myself on my bed, Laura said it was important to repeat the singing detective. Underneath promiscuous attachments of rain, you were paid to read my poems. I told everyone I had been molested with veils and illusions. Mrs. Motor declined. Maybe we are the working parts of an honest missive, or of a mistake. Laura thinks I am sleeping with someone else, but to convince her I am not, I would have to admit I am. As soon as I open my mouth, she picks up on this. Writers talk to me as if I were already troubled. Steve is wrong about his kind of drinking, or I am Steve. He tells me that some steps rise above the psychological, yet all we have are conditions. He won't tell me about feelings, or you're not supposed to talk about feelings in this way. I asked what he apologized for, and he told me that when his dad was out of town, he took his car and drove it, and went far, maybe into another state, and never told him until he apologized for it. I think he thought he had stolen his dad's car. How can you steal things from your parents? You just take them. He said the sun would destroy the earth, then everything would be okay. He said coffee was a gloom that spilled a specter over this world. He said he was full of shit, and yes, that I was right about this, but I hadn't said anything at all. Maybe didn't care. I was tired, smoked a lot of weed the night before. Wish I had said something. Upwards around my head. He must have taken this very hard, or not at all, because when he visited Dad and me, he hardly spoke, and to me, not at all. It felt like if he had said that he would have red wine, something in me would be pushed over the edge. Don't know if he thought this would happen before his eyes. At the time, considered myself an important poet, but I was 17 and often perseverating. Programmed the drum machine. It was an echo or a monitor or something you said over water when your hair was blonde. Mom asked me if Katie was taking angel trumpets from our yard. Yes, she was painting them. We smoked pot and made angel trumpet tea at the neighborhood clubhouse, which would be occupied after the storm by the FBI. Their regional office had collapsed, and they had moved their records to the clubhouse, facing the bayou, which they chained off with high, beckoning fences. We used to take acid with Jean-Paul. When he was tripping, he would claim synesthesia. He saw this vision that was outside of the sound, but in the voice of a technician describing the sound, so that pink noise describes noise without high frequency, and blue noise has no bass but lots of hiss. I'm fucking tired. Said something about this at a bonfire months ago, but don't really remember what. An emotion is needed for it. Laura wrote a poem about having sex while watching The Shout in my apartment on Ferret, but she changed my name to her own body. Like General Sherman, I saw myself as a child and touched myself. Wish I could tell you that I jerked off, but this would no longer be a poem or a line in one, in a city of girlfriends who take me to the Superdome's winter. It would be protocol that has no soul. Without circumstances, my suicide comes to mind, which is to say that remediation has urgency, a powerful figure for the people. Didn't attend, didn't have a suit. The only thing that sounds anything like industrial music is music concrete, which came decades before it in the 40s and 30s, before the war and the advent of the baby boomer. The reason to tell you any of this is related to whispers. The city that was everywhere outside of therapy had lost its singularity, had become any city in which armored vehicles rolled past you in the park. Steve said that music concrete was an intellectual sham rooted in the 60s when kids made tape music in their garages. He said Trombone Shorty and the Batistes were performing monkeys, or he said he would not be any monkey street licks in the sun, confusing his public words for private ones. After graduation, I decided to leave industrial photographs in my writing desk. Had we transcended a trickle on wood and focused the head only to let in a shoe? Building a hut of gurgles on a hill, but my bedding is soaking in the kitchen. My mom was on vacation and a bumblebee hovered against a screen. Soon I will be able to talk about paradise with a storm we build in public. With open palms, I worry this news. Laura liked to send videos of donkeys for a world where contact and touching are parts of remediation. My dad said that he once thought that everyone thinks about killing themselves in this way, but most people don't. You held him in the hallway when Steve's dad died, and he looked away from his shoulder where you had put your hand. Ran into you at the water fountain, and you told me death takes something from you and puts it somewhere, but also gives you things like cockatiels. You called me at the grocery store and told me you were living in the past of some future you will have. Misheard. Thought you said you were living in the past of some future you will never have. Began to feel that a transactional view of the future would probably require dialogue with the dead or with those who die in it but are actually alive. Laura liked to drink milk out of a carton. Industrial music is about places, internal monologue about emotions, a collectivity of newspapers or memory. The name doesn't mean anything. Industrial zones, a style of recording, sampling, a generalization. When I told Alan you had molested me, he said not to use the generalization. In music, it is specific. Even though after the storm they had colloquiums all over that surrounded you wherever you were, it does not intend to be listened to, in the city or not? Should we rebuild, one of marrow and of earth? These baby boomers would have us bulldoze the city without return. With this answer, I was reminded of Sherman. Sometimes I hold Laura the way my brother holds me. I actually have to pull away a few times before my brother will let go. Laura asked why I visited my brother, if I knew he was going to play dead the whole time, part of a larger decision-making process from which I was already removed. Is this a claim to a connection in which I attempted my own life? God, my brother is dead on the carpet, but then, like you, he started crawling towards me on his back. Had I said to stop first, or after you had quit, removed, yet comfortable with my own language? Which italicisms, which journeys do creatures tend? The deer surround grackle, torture them, strangle them. I pitch dodo, then my insides black out. You are the father of dentist cups, the paste of fathers. We're really a water fountain. When I have sex, I always have the feeling that it is supposed to be something else. Trying to tell Laura this, all I could say was that I was unhappy because I didn't like having sex with her. A considerable time of my life has been spent browned out in a state of suggestibility. Maybe 1% or 2. Browned out, I was trying to tell my dad about porn with the TV off. Don't know what I said. When came to, he was telling me that sex can be a beautiful, shared thing. His voice was one of general correction. Yet I had the feeling that he was correcting himself of something he had said to me while I wasn't there. Like when we came to eat puttanesca at my parents' house and called my dad a historian of emotions. Showed you a poem called And. You came to see me and I gave you my notebook. It was blue and it had a strap and most of the words were crossed out. And if you wanted to think that I was working with the crossed out form, you did not say so. I was just crossing out everything I wrote. Baby boomers have had a profound impact, generally inescapable by friends of mine who are not much older. Mitch was a man who smothered his own mother in Australia because she was sick and asked him to. In this way, he never came back to America, where he was an important anthropologist. For a time, my dad lived in his house with him and his wife, and I can call this man a materialist and feel right. Otherwise, Mitch was a horrible and despicable man. His wife visited my mom, my dad, and me. She told us that he had driven through a steep ravine after being warned not to, being begged not to. He let her face break with rocks in Argentina, and he let highwaymen take the sun. He let his wife get her face broken in Argentina. It was Mom's birthday. She smiled at the sky in her bathrobe, standing under the atrium where passion flowers curved upward. Don't look up to a bird. Carolyn tried to tell me this about drugs. Before graduation, she showed me a book. It had pictures, and it was written by a couple of guys who had smoked a lot in the 70s and 80s. The authors talk about how they couldn't write without cartoons. Carolyn never learned how to drive. She took her bicycle to school from the French Quarter. Thought the book was about stoners, because these men had to talk in cartoons and were cartoony. What I didn't understand then was that these men no longer smoked weed and were speaking from their adult lives, a horrifying and hard place in which weed had lost its central meaning. When she was a baby, Katie tore her hair out and threw her shit on the walls. Her father took a weird pleasure in telling me this in front of her, and I only knew this because he had a mouth. This was actually a good thing. It made her laugh when you said the same thing over and over in a way that made you money, but didn't really mean anything to Willie and Blake, yet meant everything to the movie of the living child driving its horse away. Alan knocked up his girlfriend and we went to Tunica Hills. That night, our friend fell off Norbert's stoop into a concussion and died. We talked about it, about kayaking, pulling into the marsh grass to collect things into jars. There's one world if you can get there. And there were so many that had finally arrived there and asked us if we should build the city again just to eat in a music box. We have to hold each other and cry just to eat something. Who knows but that on lower frequencies speak for you? Think about Machete Mike, who circles in my uncle. He is drunk. My uncle brushes the tree where the shakes live. I am inside my throat. Boosterism. Jerk off in the art gallery sometimes. There are so many bridges. Would worry that I hurt my brain, except half the car is gone. Want to write a poem, to build a birdhouse, to talk to Mom in my sleep. My mom is not a metal worker. She is not a bell intoning a flat line. She is my praxis. To tend their iguanas that lived on the ashtray lawn, Alan moved into his parents' FEMA trailer behind their gutted house. Katie liked to hum while she painted. She pretended to open a theater in her painting when the theater had been closed for years, hadn't even opened at its dedication. She wants her poem to be about God, not about the storm in the city, which is not true. The poem reflects all. The professor of the senses is a chipmunk in a rat cage in a warm pond. You told me I had written a book in Rue de la Cour in a coffee shop that used to be a bank. Had already written it, but did not know this. Remember getting hard? The living child who crumpled flowers in her hands or played piano, I remember. She takes all of my drugs and she makes me take them in an overdub that tries to be funny. Everyone loves and lets each other know. Tightens the moon for its love. The blood center tells me I have HIV on Christmas Eve. A mistake. Did not know this. This is okay because she loves me. One time Jean-Paul lit a bottle rocket while Alan and I took turns steering and wouldn't let go. He was so lonely. Emotional non sequiturs are the most beautiful thing in the world. The blood center man with the letter at the door is a goth, like Jean-Paul and his wife, but he might as well have been a bumblebee with guffaws of weeds. Missed the point when he gives me the letter. Fashion a stick onto the fridge door. Maybe she writes this way out of desperation. Want to build a birdhouse out of my mother and the ringing in my ears, which never leaves me and births me. When I try to relax, I read a book with pictures of dead people, the living ones who fuck you when you are in a dream wearing antlers, silently weeping. Her husband is a despicable man, or he is not a man at all. He is a bird that walks with grace along the ties of the tracks. Wouldn't know it was a mistake for 6 months. Asked Fallon for old poems because I was unhappy with my own, and he said he had burned them, by which he meant deleted them. His girlfriend had torqued too much while blowing him, and he lost the ball, and the antibiotics they gave him tingled his body for half a year. He was a metal worker, but he quit, and we huddled there in the sand on the wharf where rats go, the unconscious in the earbud. I've been writing a poem about Winn-Dixie grocery bags full of money, folded up at the end of a whip, and the mouth of a live feed from helicopters that sound like a horse breaking wind in such a dark place. Don't understand why this is racist, or prisonerish, or slave-like. Something falls out, then metamorphoses. A protocol that has no soul, but talks to you anyway over its horrible crinkling. I hope you never laugh again when you should be in bed pulling someone with the breath of a bonsai tree onto your chest. Katie would see blue gels when she looked up. There are small oil rigs that you can see from the bridge, still producing, and in the mud bottom several planes are lodged, and at a depth some feet over your head is a commercial plane. The bridge feeds into bayous and channels where Alan and I found a Bauhaus unfinished. 2 walk-in freezers and a shag carpet. We did not actually touch. We were just passing. There will be so many spiders tripping over each other and over in the rhythm. You do not get pulled over. I feel my heart. Why was it my friend? We were stabilizing topless beer cans of fossils because, you see, we will only take gifts from ourselves. We will never return to exchange an apricot, a raisin. Please, God, help me find my phone. Katie and I cut each other. We didn't know how to have sex, or we were waiting. This is how transformation should feel. All that blonde hair shimmering over the Atlantic. A man put his arm in another man on the carousel, and they began to talk to me about I-ams in a war of pines. They don't even call it war. It will never be done. How is it that I am molested when I know Katie was my date, and she only left because I was scared I was gay on the carousel, not because I lose perspective of the world, but because it is barbarously slow? How is it that I assume language that eats fried chicken, the beginning of alienation, of marrow and of earth? At my uncle's funeral, someone said he built telescopes and synthesizers, slipped, fell on his face, and drowned. Then the saddest person whispers, they had worked together, were young in a castle that looked like a hotel, these joint worn ventures that cast their own shade. Chairman Mao was run over by a car. There is a warrant that could destroy his life. His highs in the form of a warrant have taken the form of a dangerous suggestion. In this way, see myself in him and want to have sex with him, with any man who has no language. I like to be scared. Birds break into the smallest shadows. Loudest cricket ever. Behave, ears. You cannot take that plane. I meant interview, sky, sky. Envision many dedications. Have published nothing. It is all for my friends' sweet bellies. What have I not done? Katie wanted to keep the baby. Even hearing is always having to be donned. Ordered fries on the lakefront over and over. Like to get hurt, but not to hurt other people. The cold is the first portal after the blast, chasing the fried chicken you eat, which brings me to the skin. Maybe your nose perjures the Homa Indians, calling them Sabines. Please touch me. Drunk at the Chalmette battlefield, a lady dragged me from my car, and I would not stop touching. You who named the page a child, and you who knew it, I sank home. Thank you.
There's a change that's come over America, a change that's great to see.
President Ford does make me feel good about America. Very good.
We're living here in peace again, we're going back to work again, it's better than it used to be.
Oh, I think basically it's my enthusiasm for Ford as a man.
I'm feeling good about America, and that's why I'm voting for Jerry Ford.
I'm for President Ford, and I like him because he's honest. I think he'll do the best for the country.
I'm feeling good about America, and I feel it everywhere I go. I'm feeling good about America, and I feel you ought to know.
I think most Americans are feeling good about America. Let's keep going.
Paid for and authorized by the President Ford Committee. Royston C. Hughes, Treasurer.
In the sense of she kept asking why had she been forsaken, why in a narrow room, in a narrow bed with twisted sheets, why in the sense of for what purpose, twisted sheets, narrow bed, in a narrow room. Why had she been forsaken? The vibration there is the vibration of a fan. There is the vibration. There is the continuous vibration. There is the continuous dull vibration. Continuous vibration of a fan, small fan on the wooden floor. The vibration, the continuous, the dull vibration. There is a continuous vibration. There is the vibration of a fan. The vibration, there is the vibration. There is the vibration on the wooden floor. Vibration on the floor in the midst of stifling heat. There is a continuous vibration in the heat. Continuous vibration of a fan on the floor of a narrow room. In stifling heat, there is a continuous vibration in the midst of stifling heat. The vibration on the floor, the vibration on the wooden floor. There is the vibration. There is the vibration on the floor of a narrow room, on the floor of a room, under the high ceiling of a room. The continuous vibration in a narrow room. Continuous vibration beside a narrow bed. Narrow room, continuous vibration in the room. There is the vibration on the floor, under the high ceiling. On the floor of a narrow room, there is the vibration of a fan. She kept asking, why had she been forsaken? Why? In a narrow room, in a narrow bed with twisted sheets. Why in the sense of, for what purpose? The vibration of a fan, there is the vibration, there is a continuous vibration, there is the vibration, the continuous dull vibration, There is the continuous small fan on the wooden floor, continuous vibration of a fan, the dull vibration, the vibration. There is the vibration. There is the continuous vibration. There is the vibration of a fan, the vibration on the wooden floor. There is the vibration in the midst of stifling heat, vibration on the floor in the heat. There is the continuous vibration on the floor of a narrow room, continuous vibration of a fan. There is a continuous vibration in stifling heat, the vibration on the floor in the midst of stifling heat. There is the vibration on the wooden floor, on the floor of a narrow room. There is a vibration under the high ceiling of a room, on the floor of a room, and a narrow room. The continuous vibration beside a narrow bed. Continuous vibration in the room. Narrow room on the floor under the high ceiling. There is the vibration. There is the vibration of a fan on the floor of a narrow room. She kept asking why had she been forsaken? Why in a narrow room? In a narrow bed with twisted sheets. Why in the sense of for what purpose? Twisted sheets, narrow bed. On the floor of a narrow room, there is the vibration of a fan. There is the vibration on the floor under the high ceiling. Narrow room. Continuous vibration in the room. Continuous vibration beside a narrow bed. The continuous vibration in a narrow room. On the floor of a room, under the high ceiling of a room. There is the vibration on the floor of a narrow room. The vibration on the wooden floor. There is the vibration in the midst of stifling heat. The vibration on the floor in stifling heat. There is a continuous vibration of a fan on the floor of a narrow room. There is a continuous vibration in the heat. Vibration on the floor in the midst of stifling heat. There is the vibration on the wooden floor. The vibration of a fan. The vibration. There is the vibration. There is the continuous vibration. There is the vibration, the continuous, the dull vibration, continuous vibration of a fan, small fan on the wooden floor. There is the continuous dull vibration. There is the vibration. There is the continuous vibration. The vibration. There is the vibration of a fan. In a narrow bed, in a narrow room. Why had she been forsaken? There is the vibration of a fan on the floor of a narrow room. On the floor under the high ceiling, there is the vibration, continuous vibration in the room. Narrow room. Continuous vibration beside a narrow bed. Continuous vibration in a narrow room. The continuous vibration under the high ceiling of a room, on the floor of a room, on the floor of a narrow room, there is the vibration. There is the vibration on the wooden floor, the vibration on the floor in the midst of stifling heat. There is a continuous vibration in stifling heat on the floor of a narrow room, continuous vibration of a fan in the heat. There is a continuous vibration in the midst of stifling heat, vibration on the floor, the vibration on the wooden floor. There is the vibration. There is the vibration of a fan. There is the vibration. There is a continuous vibration, the continuous dull vibration, the vibration. Small fan on the wooden floor, continuous vibration of a fan, the continuous To all vibration, there is the continuous vibration. There is the vibration of a fan. There is the vibration.
In other California news, a gunman arrested after allegedly firing a rifle during a 10.5-hour standoff in a motel room near Disneyland returned from duty in Vietnam hating everything and spent time in a mental hospital, according to his father. Lawrence Dennis Hamill, 38 years old, of Santa Ana, remained in the Orange County Jail on Sunday in lieu of $250,000 bail after police rushed into his ground floor room at the Sands Hotel early Saturday. Hamill allegedly fired at least 13 rounds during the standoff, which began Friday, and forced police to evacuate about 80 occupants. No one was shot, but one woman was cut by flying glass, and she said,
like, we get depressed, so we'll take downs, and it escapes, because when you're downs or ups, you don't care. He could be a boy right there, and you could really, really dig him, and you just wouldn't care at that moment. You'd be just so messed up that you just want to just fling on everybody.
Consumers are curtailing their buying plans, even though they remain optimistic about the economy's health. The only major appliances consumers are planning to purchase are colored television sets and vacuum cleaners. In an interview with Consumer Report, the Conference Board's Consumer Resource Center president had this to say.
It needs to have an A-ohm primary input to match the output of the power amplifier. Are you clear on that down there?
Gale warnings were posted for coastal vessels as the U.S. Coast Guard continued the search for 6 people reported missing from 3 boats. The search continued for a woman who abandoned the sinking trimaran So What with the man. His body was later found. That's all for tonight's news. I'll be back at 3:45 with more California Superstation news. This is Paula Nelson reporting.
The California Superstation. 59,000 watts of power in stereo.
Leslie Scalapino, considering how exaggerated music is. Haven't I said that part of having intercourse? Haven't I said that part of having intercourse with anyone is loving them when they are weak, when they can't speak, when a woman, say, mews, while being flipped over on her belly by a man, i.e., if she utters some sound sort of like what a doll makes when it's flipped forward. What I mean by this is her eyelids, after flying open with her head flipped back, will drop shut when her head is forward. And in falsetto, we might even say mawkishly, the woman's mouth makes a sound like the word mama. After all, it is the adult male who makes the infantile whining sound in the 5 and dime store, while the others are seen outside, one waiting in line. Some females make noises to imitate swine. Page 1. This poem is dedicated to the dog woman who appeared to me in a series of dreams. Consider certain emotions, such as falling asleep, I said, especially when one is standing on one's feet, as being similar to fear or anger or fainting. I do. I feel sleep in me is induced by blood forced into veins of my brain. I can't focus. My tongue is numb and so large it is like the long tongue of a calf or the tongue of a goat or of a sheep. What's more, I bleat. Yes, in private, in bed at night with my head turned sideways on the pillow. No wonder I say that I love to sleep. Dog. Suppose I was thinking something, say, not knowing I was thinking it one day when I saw this dog before a house on the sidewalk, he not really sidling toward me, but more like loping sideways? Is that a coyote? Well, his tongue was lolling, and he was whining the way human heads loll forward in sleep, and whinny. Something so hesitant and low, more so because it was a nasal sound, a neigh, the way we neigh, not thinking when we are nervously mimicking a horse. So I mimicked him, the dog, right back. Really, I was being flippant by pretending to gallop, and all the while not moving and letting my tongue slip forward between my lips, really laughing. I know I am sick, someone will say to you, when all I can eat is something sweet. Also, I sweat. Foods like fruits, eggs, or meat are things I can't eat. Furthermore, my disease is like rabies. It's infectious. I can't swallow. I'm obsequious. And on the other hand, I fawn so easily on others, i.e., a man or dog, that dogs will be led by me silently. For instance, by my casting them a blank, although a soft look, for the dog and I'll say this at least. Here, the person speaking to you purses his lips, do yearn for each other. Isn't it interesting how a woman like me pursues in man after man the same face, or even the same foot or hand, like the man who loved a woman for her sheared hair? Samson. Sure, loved her, he said, because she was like a hyena, or like a mongrel, or like a short-haired dog, i.e., when in bed, the man said, while calling her pet names by whistling. He liked to nip her with his lips. And once, during intercourse, when he told her what he would like most from her, the man said facetiously, I want you to say the word yip, as in the yelp of a young dog. That she was at the beach, all wet with oil, pulling her hair and screaming as I died there on the sand, inside the darkening ecliptic of a dune buggy's shadow, in a circle of fading martini-breathed friends, was a miracle out of the movies, the projection of a pearl, repeating through time, or an image of Orion. My name like echoing phenomena, or a phenomenon echoing, as it were, appearing to unfold and stream like a string of dashed sentences back into my gaping mouth, my mouth trying to say something I can't now remember, and I don't think I ever shall, not for the death of me. I know that to go out this way is in bad taste, especially right after lunch, and especially after all these short, witty epigrams by someone named Kent Johnson, a poet I much admire, as do Jimmy and Kenneth, and as will John, my kids, in his own time. And I know that it makes little sense to die here with Leslie Scalapino shouting down at me to get up, because I'm the one who's supposed to say that after all. But fun is fun. I've had my share, and reality returns, like Orion in this poem.
Catch February fireworks. I'm Richard Hart.
And I'm Jan Yanahiro. Your evenings will explode, and you'll meet the Hollywood super agent responsible.
Plus tips on how to lose weight and get a raise.
And the unique lifestyle of single fathers in the Bay Area. But how close is a movie to the real thing? I'm Jan Yanahiro.
And I'm Richard Hart, coping with this latest twist to the changing American family.
Brainwashed by the Moonies and turned into a zombie for their cult.
Learn how he broke the spell and escaped.
Why? Because he's a star maker. I'm Jan Yanahiro.
And I'm Richard Hart. Secret deals can make or break a Hollywood career.
Then you'll meet some people who were once overweight but lost those extra pounds.
And in the process got better jobs, faster promotions, and bigger paychecks.
Then you'll meet a man who says, what do you call radio on TV?
Hilarious, especially when it's Richard Hart.
And I'm Jan Yanahiro. I'll take you behind the scenes to meet Lonnie, Gary, Venus, Dr. Fever.
Then we'll take you to the sweetest place on earth, Hershey, Pennsylvania, home of the famous chocolate factory.
Where else could you find streetlights that look like candy kisses?
Join us forever.
You'll meet a man who did just that. I'm Jan Yanahiro.
And I'm Richard Hart. You'll discover how becoming an instant millionaire changed.
And how he felt when the bells went off.
And I remember thinking, I did it, it's all mine.
Bang, beginning Monday as we go behind the scenes of a major motion picture studio.
Then discover how dead people are seeking immortality through cold storage.
And if you like JR, you'll love our special Dallas doubleheader.
Plus the latest happenings in the life of Luke.
It all happens.
Imagine
excitement. Join us.
How sweet it is. Adorno. For years, he pondered the use of the saxophone. The use of the saxophone is delirium and desolation. The saxophone is used to get them to dance in the condition of delirium, to dance and to cry out, how sweet it is, how sweet the Father's tongue. They dance. They're just girls who can't say no. They can't stop dancing and crying out. They can't say no. They don't dance in that condition anymore. Don't dance to that kind of music. Saxophone music used to get them to dance and to feel it. That kind of music don't dance to that. That condition, they don't dance to that anymore. No, not like that anymore. They don't dance like that. The use of the saxophone is delirium and desolation. The saxophone is used to get them to feel it, to get them to feel utterly desolate. If they are utterly desolate, why should they say no? Why say no to the honeyed tongue, to the insinuations of the sweet and honeyed tongue? Why say no to becoming so many pieces of stinking fruit? They can't stop dancing, crying out. They can't say no. They dance. They're just girls who can't say no. How sweet the Father's tongue is. Dance, cry out, how sweet it is. Get them to dance in the condition of delirium. The saxophone is used to get them to dance. The use of the saxophone is delirium and desolation. They don't dance like that. No, not like that anymore. They don't dance in that condition anymore. Don't dance to that kind of music. Saxophone music used to get them to dance and to feel it. That kind of music, don't dance to that. That condition, they don't dance in that anymore. No, not like that anymore. They don't dance like that. Why say no to becoming so many pieces of fruit, to the insinuations of the sweet and honeyed tongue? Why say no to the tongue? If they're utterly desolate, why should they say no? To get them to feel utterly desolate, the saxophone is used to get them to feel it. The use of the saxophone is delirium and desolation. Can't say no, can't stop dancing, crying out. Can't say no, they're just girls. The Father's tongue is sweet. How sweet it is. Dance, cry out. The condition of delirium gets them to dance. Gets them to dance the saxophone, delirium, and desolation, the use of the saxophone. They don't dance like that. No, not like that anymore. They don't dance in that condition anymore. Don't dance to that kind of music. Saxophone music used to get them to dance and to feel it. That kind of music, don't dance to that. That condition, they don't dance in that anymore. No, not like that anymore. They don't say, they don't dance like that. So many pieces of fruit. Why say no? Why should they say no if they're utterly desolate? To feel utterly desolate, to get them to feel it. The saxophone, delirium, and desolation is the use of the saxophone.
The guillotine saves them from endless boredom. Gaily they offer their heads, as if for coronation. Is not that the pinnacle of perversion?
Okay, we have on this line Dick, a popular TV medalist. Hello, Dick. Hello.
Hello there, sir.
Hi, Dick. Where are you calling from?
This is Dick in Martinez. I'd like to perform a 20-second medley of famous TV shows from the 60s and 70s on the water jars. I'm going to start with a popular game show of the 60s, the Baby Game, and finish up with the theme from SWAT.
Have you been doing this act long, Dick?
About 10 minutes now.
I noticed your name is Dick. You're not by any chance a sales manager, are you?
Not that I know of.
Oh, okay, Dick. Well, go ahead. Let's hear your popular TV medley.
Okay, let me find A here.
Dick?
Yes.
Yes,
sir.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, Dick.
Well, perhaps I'll write my own material from now on.
You're in deep trouble, Dick. I think you need counseling. Well, if you'll hang on the phone, we'll give you the number of a hospital near you.
I want to tell you about an important day in my life. Evening Dove and I produced a 2-year project at the Lafourche Historical Society. We called it the Indian Room. It was a white room where you had to stand. My wife and I built the prehistoric section that largely consisted of broken pottery that was donated by wildlife and fisheries. On my birthday, we had our opening ceremony. Evening Dove was there. I did not really know her because she was in the tribe and I wasn't. I was having trouble with Vietnam. As a veteran, I crossed the Indian Room to ask her if she could help me. I told her I am a Vietnam vet. She said she would. She told me how to help myself. I came home and did it to myself. I was no longer a veteran. I entered the cults of a waking dream where I saw myself in another life. Evening Dove did not leave town because she was the town in the dream. In the dream, she got out of bed at 2 a.m. I began to focus on her. Then it was 3 a.m. That was the dream where I had been and was, for I have cried in Vietnam. I may have a double life in which I talk about Vietnam to others whom I love and keep secret from each other. I am eagle who laughs. I told Evening Dove about Vietnam, and she named me. She said, I am a survivor in a different life where work is not attack. I would have married her, but already had a wife. I never say the name resonating inside of me. Sometimes when I am talking, I get the sense that everything is provided for by someone else. Maybe a veteran, like me. I don't have tribal membership. My birth name is LaPierre. My father was given up for adoption by a 17-year-old Indian lady, Anita Marie LaPierre. My daddy was an orphan. He was raised by German people. Like my father, I am an orphan too. Often tribes will adopt white people. For all that I and my wife do for these tribes, we have not been adopted. The federal government does not recognize the Houma Indians. It has always been a racist institution. Evening Dove is tribal member to Houma. She's watched me for all these years, all over the country, being taught the old traditional ways. I told her, I don't have a teacher. There's no elders to teach me. She looked at me a long time. I remember a chemo woman. Her head was this big from the chemo. I pray for her. Next week, she is home. That is what they told me. Today, I am praying for a blind girl in Baton Rouge. In my own prayers, I have always tried to learn to know that I do not want to analyze or understand why was this happening. In 1970, I worked as a pumper on South Marsh Island, Block 11-8, not far from Lafayette. In my life as a troubleshooter, I was traumatized over and over by other people, even my friends, for I would not speak. For years, I was hell on wheels to be around. It is not that I would fuss people. It is just that I did not want anybody around me. I found out this is a Nam thing. I don't want any dirty pigs around me. Hate pigs! I did not know what was wrong with me, but I knew I would always work alone. Lifted up a 275-pound cylinder head and stuck it where it belonged. Possessed by trauma, I always fought work, and everyone stayed away because they were scared. Texaco never fired me because I was a good troubleshooter. 300 million feet of gas, all compressed. 300 million, a $1,700 a million. Figure that out. That's over $500,000 a day. It was all compressed gas. Yours truly. I stayed there a year and a half, keeping those compressors running, high-tech turbines. I was able to anticipate a lot of things and have my shut-ins and do things before I had time loss, regressed in myself. I would take care of the little problems before they became big problems. With overtime, I made more money than the tool pushers. Texaco called me to the office. Nobody else was making overtime. They did not want to pay it. I said, you know what? I'm going to keep turning that overtime in. If y'all can't financially sit down here and figure that I am worth the overtime, I don't know what somebody needs to show you. When I came back from Vietnam in 1965 to work offshore, the war was on the TV every night on the rig. Every evening on TV, you see Vietnam, and the bodies getting tallied. Now this went on for 5 years, 8 years, until the war was over. No good baby killer. That's what they called me for years. I did not talk to anyone in order to survive. That's what they called me even after the crash of the 80s in 1989. Baby killer. It is still going on. Does anybody hear it? Listen to me. I never heard that in my life. Bless you. If, like me, your father went into the war, can you remember why your dad was angry all the time? I have never killed anyone in anger. For those of us who have never done it, it is almost like you wish you had that experience. Why was he angry? What did you do wrong? That's what veterans did to our families. I like to attack. Push, push, push. This whole house, by hand. At dinner, these particular guys would not stop badgering me. They were silent, but I could hear my terrible name in their reposes. I threw chairs all over the place. They were really scared. The platform was 1/2 mile long, and they ran to the far end. I sat back down at the table. Then a boat picked me up. They all ran to the other end, and they called out, and they said, "The healer's gone crazy!" It was only one side of the story. So I go sit down in the office. The head of production asks, "Well, what's the problem?" And I said, "Well, I don't know if you can really determine what the problem is. There's only one party here. There's only one side of the story here. Anything compartmentalizes into everything else. It is a wonderful mystery of life." When I quit, everybody started crying. I didn't know what I was going to do. I really wasn't sure myself what was wrong with me. I knew I had a lot of problems. Why was I getting so mad about Vietnam? I didn't understand. When I quit the job, The boss cried for years, "Sweet baby killer." I felt like I had failed my family. To me, it was like failing. Loner, cannot. Not a team player, can't get along with. I refused to sign the form. My wife got out of the car. She walked to Howard Johnson's to get something to eat, and she keeled over and died. Aneurysm. They told me my wife suffered heart attack. I'd been working offshore for about a day and a half. I was called to the courthouse in Port Allen. If she had had a heart attack, she would be in the hospital. I knew she was dead. Another tally. Why do they lie and call me a healer? One time I put out a fire on the rig and they gave me a medal. As a result of your efforts, not normally associated with a mechanic repairman. People attack work as if it were a sense of life not normally associated with ourselves and our personal embraces. I did not want to hurt anybody. They made me do it. It makes me cry. Murderer! If you tell me it was any different than that, I'll kill you. I'll jump out this window.
There is a place you should know, teaching TV and radio. There's a special feeling here, a chance to build a great career. Plan your future, leave your past. Ron Bailey School of Broadcast, we can help to take you there. Feel much better when you're on the air. You'll feel better when you're on the air.
This is Ron Bailey. At the Ron Bailey School of Broadcast, men and women who are serious about on-the-air work are training for jobs in radio and television. We'd like to help you. Call us.
We can help to take you there. Feel much better when you're on the air.
And this is what's known as a takeaway that was passed out at an art exhibit that occurred in 2013 at RISD, Rhode Island School of Design, to make the occasion more intimate for people to take something of the exhibit with them. Dear visitor, I have trouble forgiving myself, even of things I do not clearly remember, yet my facility for forgiveness has often informed my response to the chance contact I have had with people on the street. Forgiveness is not so much a precedence as it is a suggestion. Talking to a stranger, improvising something to say, I become aware of myself as a resemblance to her, as she sees me then, insofar as she talks to me, as she has talked to others, both ones familiar and strange, and therefore to herself. When a friend is no longer present in my life, I tend to study something of their interests or history, not to feel their presences with me, but rather to understand what I said to them in light of what I did not know then about them. Looking at one of Kay's vignettes of Jack, I am struck by how the camera is uninvolved with the mirror. In this particular light of suggestion, I am surprised when a mirror does not reflect my face, and remember standing in the library by a shelf reading a study on Egon Schiele's paintings to see what I had said to my girlfriend and this certain habit of light, and now what I did not want to say to her, who was a painter herself. Sometimes she painted me while I was reading, which was a new habit of mine. In the institution, I intuit the propagation of my own work and some of the feelings I have had sharing it with my friends. Yet looking at John's piece, I imagine the impacts of a cardinal extraction, a single iteration that has both confounded and organized the land. I don't know why. I have listened to them and put them away, never fully out of my mind, because, you see, I am curious. Why these kinds of thoughts in this particular order? Maybe we are the working parts of an honest missive. Yabis said the desire to kill oneself, is an ancient dream of hegemony inspired by death. Maybe appropriation is a form of forgiveness. Rooting myself out from my own institution is hard work that requires forgiveness. I don't know, Chris, or what it would mean to meet him after some of the time I have spent on my own, not wealthy, but working within the means of an institution that is inhibited by chance, but also capable of transformation. When I look at Chris's expandable sculpture of bread, this clemency becomes a disinhibiting feeling in which the room might share the plane of its own passing over me. As I stand by Ed's table, I digest what I see in the particular direction of resemblance. Yet everything I see has been provided for by someone else.
My son Andy Kerr, by the way, my name's Graham Kerr. When my son was just 10, he made his first attempt to follow in my footsteps, and I think he was jolly successful. You know what he cooked? His favorite dish, scrambled eggs. They were soft and creamy, and I really couldn't have done better myself. If you like fresh eggs as a family, then I'd like to share our secret for perfect scrambled eggs. Just whip 4 eggs together without liquid and season them, and then pop them into melted butter. You know, when the butter is just at the point of browning and smells like hazelnuts, that's the time to add the eggs. Stir them rapidly, and when they look just right, add a 1/4 cup of cold milk and stir again until they're heated through. This little trick halts the cooking process that so often makes eggs dry before they're even on your plate. Fresh eggs are one of the world's great delicacies. They deserve to be treated with respect, right?
Graham Kerr was brought to you by the California Egg Program.
Vertical effort in white. She does not know herself, is dazzled by data, up from the roots and added breath at work within the strength of a measure. On the immediate verso or lengthwise, hair swept into the night of a fate provoking mysteries in its play across barely perceptible stage business comes hugging knees and brushing against hands close to innocence. And in the inner light they maintain salient relations, prehensile and vulnerable eyes under the sway of colors, dark doubled in a minor key, this tactile memory. You there, somber, on the median line, they seek their bodies. You make gestures of approach or withdrawal. It is not in your power to delete the outline. This opposition proves to be aleatory, Mute in the acid air recurs, so sweet their absence, filled with a fervor they would have tried to make tangible. Nevertheless, she recalled fabrics, scents, chains. There where the night birds broadcast their cries, dangerous to ignore, how they exacerbate this place. Open lips, spots, burns. Such bodily representation was newly outlawed. These gestures quickening again turns away from a tiny trace on the chest. She trembles before their nakedness. Our talk veered apart. The uncertain day had the last word, which oscillates. The indistinct rises toward the angle. Chance takes them under a trajectory. White, dazzled, she wastes away. In this place where images fade, a plot of land as its own proof, a reminiscence embraced as if we were waiting, exhausted for sunrise. She abstracts the object. She deflects the gesture that catches in the gap between, faced with food and its names in the extreme, agreed for offerings, words of sacrifice. Thus proffered the telluric image, a disparity. She engendered her son in stubborn silence, or generating a stylistic figure, and a memory likely to come undone at the slightest change of vowel, an abstraction of origins. Her face reflected the homonym of an earlier loss, the cues. This archaic episode carries consequence. The law of succession, the blankness of symbols, vertebral, distant, turned, pale, and broke this kind of logic.
I found her crying in the morning, sitting in a chair. She was wrapping something up and wrapping it with care. I did not mean to hurt her when I fell asleep last night. I was just exhausted from the act of being polite. Yes, I was just exhausted from the act of being polite.
graham cracker crust of corruption. Just wonderful. Bedient, the partridge in me. The partridge in me is the sugar of caprices. The partridge roof, a clamor of resuscitation. He's so evolved. His shadow so fatigued. Under his feather thrilled belly, his slow, particular feet. The assassins shoot at him. They're antidotes to perfection, but a punt with Pluto is to him so sweet. It's dark sugar in his butter yellow beak. No one has found his titanium teeth. They think they've stuffed him, but they don't know nothing. Boors are they, sans interruption. The partridge is crazy, but he doesn't mind. He says, "Hey, really, I'm okay. I doesn't mind." Careful, like the stars at night, he steps through the town, odorous as mimosas.
Wonderful Helen and Renee, that was just almost just perfect. But let me just wind up the camera, and I think it would be better if you were, Helen, if you would remove the brassiere and get into place, because the mysticism on the stained glass window and the profanity of that brassiere do not go well together. So maybe we could try that scene again. You just get back into the same place, and then we'll start.
Considered!
Tomorrow we do the massaging table scene, and maybe after that, if we have time, we'll do the scene where you're found naked in a flood shelter, and there are those radioactive welts on your thigh. I'm not sure if we'll do that. brazier.
So what about that book, Luke, huh? I don't know, would you call that a chapter? Or a book? Or a sentence? Or a word? A face? Or a shadow?
Wonderful Helen and Renee, that was just almost just perfect, but let me just wind up the camera, and I think it would be better if you were, Helen, if you would remove the brazier and get into place, because the mysticism of the stained glass window.
Okay, now we've got a real one. Do you have a doorbell transformer at your house?
No, we have a buzzer in our security building.
A buzzer?
Yes, Weatherman?
Yes, as it is.
I had a question.
All right, go ahead.
From your knowledge and experience, have any of the parts or essential elements of the high-definition phone relay apparatus gone out of date or out of production, or do you know about that?
Do you mean high fidelity?
Yes. To all the parts still on the market.
All you need to do is get a matching transformer. That's not like a doorbell transformer, though. This is a special audio transformer. You want the secondary winding to be 600 ohms. Do you hear me?
Yes, I'm listening.
Okay, and then the primary winding of this transformer will be 8 ohms. That 8 ohm feed comes from the earphone jack of your cassette tape deck, or any other amplifier that you have. You follow me?
I'm listening.
Okay, once you have all that, you need to get a non-polarized capacitor. You need to get it rated at 50 volts, non-polarized, about 5 microfarads.
Other assortments
you still following?
Or
yes, any electronic store should have them.
I could give the following specifications you just gave, and they could hand me something that I can walk out of the store with.
Yeah, and then you have to connect it to the red wire and the green wire of the phone line.
I will try to get it for you.
Then when you dial a number, you switch it in, and you play the tape or speak on the microphone or whatever it is you do with the amplifier, and it comes over the phone line.
And if you have a reasonable quality microphone, that will help.
Any good dynamic or even a crystal microphone. I would suggest a crystal microphone for the phone line, because the phone line has such poor high frequency response. You want to make it kind of peak around 8,000 cycles, and a crystal microphone does that really well. I plan to hook that up a little later in the mix board here and see how it sounds. I think you'll agree.
Yes, that's all the information I need to produce a...
Yeah, really, that's about it. And we've really gotten off the track here. We're talking about transient peaks and doorbell transformers. You say you don't have any of those problems right now?
No, transient peaks, that sounds a little like something...
I'm sorry.
I would hear from...
You're in that security building, so you don't have anything to worry about.
No, I hear the gunshots go off every few nights.
The gunshots? What does that mean?
Yes, echoing gunshots. See see the drug wars are within earshot of where I happen to live.
Well, I just watch it on Channel 7 News at 6. You should do the same. Next caller, please. Okay, do you have a doorbell transformer at your house?
Yes, I do. Someone told me the doorbell frequency.
You sound like somebody I talked to.